Good morning, everyone. Or Monday. So, today, a little bit of a weird overnight session. You see if we had Sunday trend higher during the Asia session, and then London didn't really do too much. So we've slightly been trending higher. Immediately, the first thing I think of is this regular trading hours gap. With the overnight trend, I think that we could probably try and attempt to get back to the midnight open and fill some of this gap. But I don't know if I want to trade on anything. I think the week is still setting up, and we have lots of news. We have news this morning, but of course it's NFP week, so let's see. This morning we have 9:45 PMI, the global manufacturing final, and the ISM manufacturing PMI, which is going to be the big news at 10. Tomorrow we have the JOLTS job openings, and then Wednesday we have lots of news. We have the unemployment change, the global composite PMI final, and the services PMI. And then we have news the rest of the week. But lots of news all week. So even though there's news today, it can be a little slower because the bulk of the news towards the end of the week. Of course, with Friday having NFP. But I'm just watching it run up to the reclaimed order block right now, and I want to see if it's going to provide a reversal. I'm not going to look to go long, and I need to wait and see a 15-minute order block start to form. Yeah, I like this rejection from the hourly or claimed order block. Nothing that I want to take a trade on necessarily just yet, but I'd like to check out the other indexes and how are they opening. The S&P has not moved up. It's a little weird because if you compare Friday's closing candle, you see how the S&P and the Dow went up like a lot, while the Nasdaq actually went lower, much lower, and then went up. So that was very weird to me because the Dow has been leaning lower, and the S&P has been in the middle, and the Nasdaq has been the one that's bullish. And now we're seeing the Nasdaq really start to go down, and now the Dow isn't going down. So interesting, but it seems like the Nasdaq's now back to going up, and then the Dow's going down, and S&P is in the middle. All right, as we saw so often last year. Oh, and I am waiting until 10 o'clock to take any trades, so I will mark that level because that's when we have the news. Alright, so just had a 10 o'clock news. We saw a big down move on the 50-minute chart. This is very interesting. I would like this to be the start of a move lower. If we go down to lower time frames to investigate a little bit more, we saw a 930 initially run higher to that hourly reclaimed order block, and now we're seeing a little bit of a rejection. Lots of down closed candles right ahead of this news, but I'm not willing to take anything again ahead of the news. I would expect here the news well, I'd like this delivery to keep going for the news to push it down, which wouldn't give me an entry. However, if the news wants to bring it back up, I could have another entry afterwards, but we'll see. Stay on the 15-minute chart, and I would be looking at not just this up close candle, but the whole consecutive candles here as an order block. And I'd also be looking at these down close candles as a breaker, and I'd like for price to use that and build lower back towards the lows overnight here. Super bearish already. Wow. Has the Dow been hurt? Yeah, the Dow is really falling. And the dollar too, I had a bearish bias on the dollar. I mean, it is sideways, so it's low probability for the dollar. Anything right now it's honestly a wise decision not to trade, especially not forex when the dollar is consolidating, because it just, well, I mean, it doesn't affect the other markets that much, but especially for forex, I mean, you're going to be moving sideways. It's hard to determine a directional bias when you're moving sideways. But we're around here at 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and I saw the price close beneath this fair value gap after taking out Friday's short-term high there, and then seeing a rejection after taking that high and creating an order block. So I had a bearish bias down to this low, and this is why I like price going lower. I looked at the Nasdaq and I saw it's above the midnight open. It's not something I agree with too much about prices going lower. It could just be coming down to an order block, but this is very high into premium, so it's not something I'd look to trade off of. We'll see what the news does. Honestly, right now I'm thinking it could go both ways. It's very possible that it shoots higher, and this is a down move ahead of the news to get people short. So I wouldn't be trusting this. I wouldn't definitely not be shorting anything here. I'm just waiting until the news to see the delivery. Yeah, see, look at that. It's pushing all the way back up. Let's see if it pushes back up above the high, or it's just coming back to the 1 hour reclaimed order block. So far, it seems as if it just came back to that breaker, and I'm going to remove this level. I have enough for the hourly one. I mean, yeah, it could these could be short entries. I mean, it seems like it came back to the breaker, but I don't want to take that just yet. We're gonna let the news settle down a little bit. All right, let's see if it takes off here. I don't like how it's consolidating down here and how it made this move lower ahead of the news. So maybe it'll take off and it'll complete that bias to go down to the sell side liquidity, or it's going to continue retracing. So let's see if it comes down here and gets underneath midnight open. It seems like it's. I wouldn't really expect it to come back up here. I want it to run to midnight open. But I'm gonna wait and see if we do get underneath midnight open, if we want to reverse and then run higher. Right, I wouldn't really trust this OTE. It could be one. Again, we're up into a premium, so I definitely wouldn't trust this OTE. In fact, I probably won't take longs, but I want to look for a long just to tape read. If we do, whether it's this OTE or if we do get beneath midnight open and there's a long that presents itself, I want to tape read that. This could be a good short. There's a lot of order blocks that would be resisting price, stopping it from going back higher. But normally I wouldn't really want price to hang around like it is right now. It should not fill this gap and quickly run lower. I sort of, something told me like maybe I could take this trade, like I want to take this trade, but I would rather wait for another trade where we're gonna get the whole reversal like up here. That's just higher probability. This is where it's already ran a little bit, and I would be getting in a little bit late, and after it already ran a little bit and it's running out of steam. Not like the full reversal using the higher time frame. I'd be sort of like chasing price here, getting in down here, and I'd rather just tape read this. See, I really would not be comfortable if I'm in this trade here and it's pushing up, come back up. Nothing is really stopping it from coming back up. It's not like a high probability, right? It's chasing price. You're up, down into a discount lower time frame, and yeah, no surprise that it got stopped out. This could be creating a market shift too. Actually, and seems like we did a sort of a Judas swing off the news, created a 5-minute short-term low, broke out higher, came all the way back down beneath that 5-minute short-term low, and now the real move may occur and it could be higher, going back to these highs. But since we're above the midnight open in a premium, again, I'm just looking to tape read the longs. I'm not going to actually take them. Here's something I guess we could do. Something like this right now, right, where we've created an order block, and again I'm gonna say it again, we're in a premium, so this could not work. This is all low probability. Yeah, it's an OTE, but because we're up into a premium, I don't trust any of this. Alright, any of the longs. But if we were in a bullish order flow, you'd be looking at an OTE. You'd be looking at this order block, which traded down beneath the 5-minute short-term low here, right, which created a bullish breaker with this price action here. And then you'd have these fair value gaps, which don't necessarily need to be filled. Preferably, I'd rather not see it fill, especially since we're in a premium. I'd rather not see these gaps fill if we are to go higher up to these highs, to the high of the day. And there's also always the order block too. So if I wasn't along, I would definitely be taking some partials inside that wick there. I'd watch out if it takes too long. If it doesn't want to run, you could start to taper off your trade. What the heck? That's a rejection block right there that price came to. We're also seeing the bodies respect 50% of this fair value gap there. And we're seeing price find a lot of resistance at this fair value gap there. The reason I'm watching this one is because it's a balanced price range with the left ones on the left. Well, the left candles and the right candles form a balanced price range, but it's also the last fair value gap in this entire up move, right? So this entire move higher, that leg higher, right? This could resist price and then send it lower. Notice here I'm very two-sided right now. I'd rather shorts, right? But I can make a case for long, and this is when you can do this. Until I say that this is not going to work, it's just no trading. Alright, so right now I'm not liking how price dug into this fair value gap some more. Here's like a point where it can definitely, it's definitely very two-sided. And I'm still not liking shorts though, because, well, even though I prefer them, there's a bunch of order blocks here that I would want to see be broken and then used as a reclaimed order block. That would be the better short, higher probability in my opinion. It's too late to be positioned into a short here. I think you're too much of in a discount looking at the current day's range if you ignore the Asia session. If you're just looking at the London session, the previous session, in my opinion, could be like a resuming Asia's trend. So that's why, like, I can just make two cases. It's better if you're, especially if you're two-sided on a day where you're two-sided within your bias, it's better to get in at the very premium and the very discount if you're going to trade. Let's see how the 15-minute chart looks. Still finding resistance on this order block inside that wick. And this is actually a 5-minute fair value gap. I should probably use that. Or we'll refine it to the 1 minute, whatever. Watch this balanced price range here if it forms. This is completely balanced, this fair value gap, so I'd want it to really hold price, and I don't want price to get back beneath this, so I could have like a break even stop right here. It could always go back to break even and then come back and it still work, but generally I'd want this level to, I don't want to be in the trade for too long, and I'd want this to hold. So if I was in this trade, mentally my stop would be break even right here, or maybe just beneath these lows, like a heavily trailed stop, something like this. But I also don't like it when these fair value gaps are created. We've had candles push into the previous up close candle. It's like the momentum immediately stopped. But because of the balanced price range and how the up close candles here provided no resistance, I'm allowing it. If we get above this fair value gap right here, we close above it, not just like we close just a little bit above it. We very clearly close above it, like a couple of points. I would want this to be support, and then that's when I can trail my stop up even more. And I want it to kind of like climb, and I really want it to take off once it sort of gets above 50% of this wick. Back to the order block, that's when I would really want it to run higher. If it starts bouncing from the order block, it'll probably run out of steam. Yeah, I think I might go play basketball today and end it early because there's really just nothing going on here. I'm more like consolidating. Actually, I think maybe this could be a short, but I'd rather not take anything. And we still have the same thing with the order blocks here, supporting price, and my opinion is still a bit two-sided, but the trade would have been stopped out break even. This is interesting to me, but I'm not willing to take that because of how price is moving. We still have this fair value gap. If we didn't have this gap here, I would be more willing to take that. Because we had this price action back here where we created the short-term low and the trade beneath that, I'm more hesitant on taking anything here. Anyways, it looks like we're probably just going to see it just kind of run down fairly quickly without really retracing. We created sort of like a market shift right now. If we want to close beneath that low, I'd consider that a market shift. Remember, we have a balanced price range back here, so it's going to be finding a lot of support here. But if it breaks down beneath it, that's when I really want to see it run lower to the sell side liquidity. All right, and then this is where, and now this is more this now this is one-sided. Uh, down to this gap should hold price and should run back down to the midnight open at least before going back above this high. I don't want to see it continue running to sell side liquidity as it crosses over midnight open. I'd like it for it to keep going and accelerate to the sell side liquidity, which is the overnight lows there. And it's also starting to fill that regular trading hours gap talked about. I'd also watch this order block there to resist price. Just kind of that alone, I wouldn't even want to go above it. This could have been a trade, by the way, but I decided not to take it. I simply just went back and forth so many times between okay, yeah, let's tape read along, let's tape read a short, so that I would just chose just not to take it and just wait for a better time. We're also, again, same scenario as back here. If I would say I'd be chasing it there, I would also be chasing it here because we've already kind of left. Time to get in was on the inverse fair value gap, but I was conflicted between two biases. I don't want to see this gap be traded into. It shouldn't be traded to. So price should leave. Preferably I'd like it to just find resistance on this gap, and then that's it. It leaves from this area. So something like that I'd have in mind. But I wanted to wait to see it come to the 50% there. It didn't give me that, so I didn't pull the trigger. Let's see if it's willing to run down to that sell side liquidity now. and oh, almost. Hello? Okay, there you go. I thought it hit and it wouldn't show that it hit. Alright, so that concludes it. We saw that overnight low get hit, and now I don't really care what price does, and I won't be participating on it. But yeah, I had said how from looking at the 15-minute chart, I could see the order block forming here. I wanted to get in up here, but it didn't give me the opportunity, and when we pushed down, I didn't want to get in down here. We consolidated a little bit. When we got underneath this gap, I didn't trust to go short yet because we still had this gap over here. So I wanted to wait and see if we were going to get beneath this inverse fair value gap, and we did, but we moved away from it a little bit, and I wanted to see it come back to the midpoint at least, because I didn't want to have a stop. I want to have around 50-point stop loss, and I didn't expect it to come back into this gap, because why should this gap stay open? Because we had a 5-minute gap here, and we initially moved lower. We created a market shift, right? So a market shift here, and well, the significance of that is now the market's in a bearish order flow. It can retrace after the initial move down, but the second displacement is here, and so if we've created a big down close candle, the next candle should be down close, and the next candle after that should be down close. It shouldn't break these candles high. Each of the candles should be down closes like the first displacement leg, right? If we do break a candle's high, we're going to be consolidating, starting retracement. So if I want to see a real quick run past the midnight open to the sell side liquidity, you'd want to see gaps left open or the next candle immediately after rebalance like this. And so we had an immediate rebalance here because we left that breakaway gap open and ended up running very quickly down to the sell side. I'm just gonna log everything. fair. So yeah, one more time from the 15-minute chart. We formed an order block there. We came back into the order block. So we're bouncing off from the 1 hour reclaimed order block. And we are also in this order block, which is, I don't know what that is. What is that? A 4 hour order block. So that, oh no, this is a daily order block. Yeah, the daily order block. I should label that daily order block so I know. And we created this propulsion block, which inside this 1030 candle we were finding resistance at. The 5-minute chart, the news came out and ran really high up into the 1 minute breaker in a fair value gap up there, and quickly ran back down, and then we made another impulse leg up after forming some sort of breaker, which consolidated, created some bullish fair value gaps, probably got some people long, but ultimately was finding resistance at this big range here, which is all an order block. And we created a breakaway gap, an immediate rebalance. And so going into the lower time frame, I said I didn't want to see price come back to the breakaway gap, right? Because we're immediately rebalancing. We create a market shift, and this is the second displacement leg after the already retracement. So because we already retraced, I don't want to see it retrace again, or then it's just in a consolidation. It's not in a condition to move lower. So that's why it's like I see that as a losing trade if it comes back to the breakaway gap, because it's likely just, well, it's likely just to consolidate. Like most of the time it will just consolidate if it does that. And that's not a trade I want to be in. But going down to the lower time frame, now you saw this is the breakaway gap on the 5-minute. So breakaway gap 5-minute, and then the inverse fair value gap, which I'll make lighter, and I'll make that in white. Alright, so price immediately rebalanced and traded back into that fair value gap. I wanted to short at the 50%. I shouldn't have shorted even if it went up there though, so I'm glad I didn't short because I was conflicted on my bias going into it. And even though I did say that, okay, there is a long here that could be possible, and I'm not taking it because it's low probability and it's probably going to fail. But if I do see it fail, then I would be going short. I would be looking for shorts. And if it does and end up failing, right, like you see these fair value gaps act as resistance, but then I was watching this fair value gap and I said, okay, I want this fair value gap to act as resistance. It still could act as support even though these ones are closed beneath. And we closed all the way beneath, not making a new low, came back one more time as we were immediately rebalancing on the 5-minute chart. And now we just absolutely very quickly ran past the midnight open down to the sell side liquidity. So yeah, it wasn't the most obvious trade, right? Because you're getting in at the low here, like instead of up here. So not the most obvious trade. This was a market maker sell model, second stage, and very nice delivery. At least if I had gotten into that play, it would have been very nice and quick. But yeah, that's all. There's going to be more opportunities, more clear trades to take in this week because we have lots of volatility and lots of news. So yeah, that's all.